Hi, everybody. Welcome to ZealZaddy. This is Story Talk, where every picture tells a story. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something I've wanted to ask so many people about for so long, which is how do you plan and operate? How do you get involved with TTRPG charity streams? All right, why don't we go around, let everybody say hi and introduce themselves, and I'll drop their links in chat and have fun with it. Jes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jes. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And you can find me on the internet at Jes the Human, Jes with one S. You can mostly find me doing TTRPG charity streams, auctions, and charity bundles as well. I actually just finished up with RPGs for accessible gaming for Dot's RPG project, which raised just over $28,000 to help them bring more Braille dice into the world. I was looking around because I have a set, but it's over there and I am over here. And finally, I wish you good morning each and every day in super duper specific ways. And I will popcorn it over to Hector. Oh no, you're muted, my friend.
I am now unmuted. Hi, my name is Hector Reyes, aka Okami, or at Keiichi Okami, all over the internet. I am a TTRPG actual play performer, game designer, and I have all around just nerd. I am the steward of A House of Dreams, which is a new upcoming Twitch and YouTube channel that showcases BIPOC, LGBT, and marginalized talent and stories. I've been around a really long time, and I love doing charities, both as a player and as an organizer. And I'm gonna popcorn it over to Rosie.
Hi, I'm Rosie, she, they pronouns, sweet Rosie Bee, just about everywhere on the internet. I am a TTRPG performer, producer, and storyteller with a heavy focus on charity one-shots and campaigns. I've done a lot of work with Extra Life, Trans Lifeline, Starlight Kids Foundation, really getting into the chat interaction with charity involvement. I've been doing this ever since I was in middle school with charity fundraising and melding that into the streaming and TTRPG space. It is a heavy passion of mine, and I'm so delighted to be here to talk about it with all of these wonderful folks. I'm going to popcorn over to Nekola.
Hi, I'm Nekola, aka Nekola the Druid on all the social places. I started in the TTRPG space around about 2020, doing unnecessary and over-the-top charity streams like Bangaman's Charity Bowling Tournament and the Weave Racer series. But now I am the director of programming for Diversity Saves. If you're not familiar with Diversity Saves, we're a 501c3 nonprofit devoted to uplifting and promoting creators from marginalized communities, including with workshops, grants, and we are now launching our community showcase where we will bring you on to either play test your game or do an interview or just do everything to make sure that you are known because everyone out there is worth it. But yeah, that's me.
So the way the show works, it is a discussion show. Chat can ask questions. I do ask put a cue or a question right before to make it easy to find in chat if it starts rolling quick. In the interim, I have more questions than I could possibly get through in one night because I'm as curious as the rest of you are about all of this. So I'm going to start with something very simple. I always say it's something simple. It never is. In your estimation, what matters to a stream becoming successful? What matters most to a stream becoming successful? Probably the hardest question of the night.
Do you mean this in the sense of a charity stream?
Yes.
Or are we framing
this
this?
is all
Okay.
charity streams. All and only tonight.
This is just my opinion. And I want to preface this with I am not a capitalist. But how much money you raise. And I say that purely from a place of mutual aid and a place of practicality. I love making art, but it is very, very important that your stream raises some money. And yes, that can lead to activist burnout, which is something, that is separate from the traditional burnout, creative burnout, which more people in the TTRPG space are aware of. Activist burnout is when you're raising money for a cause, or you are involved in a collective action or mutual aid. And that success, yes, can come at a cost. But this is just, in my opinion, I think that it's a success if you have raised funds. Note, I did not say reach your goal, which was something that I learned from Jes. So I'm going to cede the spotlight to Jes because a lot of things that I know about this particular subject, I have learned from them. And I think it's important that we hear it from the source and I don't take credit for something that someone else taught me.
Okay. Color me blushing. I think while raising funds is incredibly important, I put at the highest top for me inspiring others. And I guess I have that outlook because I was telling y'all a little bit before we started. I am a fundraiser professionally as well. I've been doing this for about a decade. And so I've led Relay for Lives and I've led March for Babies. And if you can impassion someone and empower someone to be able to do it themselves, it's like that old saying, if you teach a man to fish, he eats for life, but if you give a man a fish, he only eats for the day. And so it's like a snowball effect or like mid-level marketing schemes, but for good. So inspiring others, that's my biggest thing.
I think for me, a great measure of success is how engaged you can get the communities that you are broadcasting to with your streams. Because if you don't know your audience, you're not going to raise funds, you're not going to inspire, you're not going to connect in those impactful ways. I know, speaking from my own experience, that has taken a ton of trial and error to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But through that process, learning along the way what is engaging, what's going to be engaging to different audiences. Because you can run all sorts of stories. You can focus on that art, and that'll draw in different groups of people depending on what story you're telling. And if you can get that to align with the charity that you're fundraising with that cause, you have a beautiful formula for success.
So I learned going last means that you all take my answers.
It's the hardest time to go.
It is. But I just want to echo the importance of inspiring others. That is a big lesson that I learned when I was streaming, because the number is great and that dollar amount is great when it gets really, really big. But y'all, the economy sucks right now and charities are feeling it all over the place. So a big lesson that I learned was not tying your enjoyment to how big that number gets. It is more important that the people are there raising awareness, talking about other ways to get involved. And also just not forgetting that, like, having fun. It's something we've been talking about a lot in the Diversity Saves Discord, is that having fun and enjoying yourself is an act of resistance. And so you can go on that charity stream and raise $5, but if you have educated people, if you have, pushed through all of the obstacles, then yeah, that is also really important when it comes to charity work.
All right. So there's a couple of different sides to this whole thing. There's the performers, the front of the camera group. There's the back, the people behind the scenes, and then there's, of course, the charities. So if somebody came to you and said they want to do their first charity stream, what would you tell them to concentrate on as the first measure of getting it rolling? Like, what do you think becomes the most important thing for a new streamer to have some measure of success on their first stream?
Get other people involved. Don't do it all yourself.
Yes.
You probably have a community of people that are willing to help you, whether it's putting together your go live graphics, your charity overlay, helping you learn how to use Tiltify or the Twitch fundraising tool. You don't have to do it all on your own. I know a lot of folks that have questions for me are just very overwhelmed with like all of it. But if you can break it down and ask people to just do little pieces and to be responsible for that, it's not going to feel like such a daunting task. And then you're going to feel like you're actually enjoying yourself rather than stressing the heck out.
And in addition to that, not just in the preparations, but day of, making sure that you've got people. A big mistake that I made in the past is GMing and monitoring the donations. Don't do that. A really great way to, have somebody monitoring donations, and I usually have like like a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet so that I can communicate with that person just on the side of the screen, and then I don't have to watch for anything and all that jazz. So
I definitely echo like having a large team. I credit the BIPOC Black History Month fundraiser that we just did that I was on the team for, which I will admit was my first time in a big charity stream doing the behind the scenes work. We would not have been able to pull it off if there hadn't been a dedicated group of us all essentially playing divide and conquer and figuring out what we need to do. Also, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to do research. Don't be afraid to ask. Mark J, who is the leader of our team, had one-on-one conversations with Jes and just, offered advice and talked to him. And then, I talked to my friend Steve, Sassy Pants over at Pantsless Tables. Steve has learn from my friend Steve's mistakes. And I say this with love. Steve has been doing all of these successful charity streams alone for a year. And only now are they bringing together a team. Don't do that to yourself. Like it is so difficult. And I'm just going to echo what Jes said, just divide it amongst your friends, divide it amongst the people. Also, Nekola, yes, absolutely. If you're the GM, have either your producer handle looking at the donations or even a third party so your producer can focus. Like the more hands that you have on deck to share the load, the less that it's going to burn you out and be stressful and make you regret ever starting the project. Because it will be challenging, but I promise at the end it'll be worth it. What do you got to say, Rosie?
Yeah, echoing all of that, as someone that would serially run charity streams by myself, doing all the producing, all the GMing, all the donation monitoring. Get help, like get a team together. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because 99 times out of 100, people are going to want to offer it. People are going to want to help and be involved and support you. And I feel so grateful and lucky to have a number of people I know I could go to and trust to help me with these endeavors. And I do regularly, and it makes them so much more impactful, so much easier, so much less stressful. Because when you're stressed on camera, it shows. So getting and not being afraid to ask for help, to ask for assistance, and bring in new skill sets, because someone that you ask for help might be a little bit better, faster, more efficient at, let's say, producing, might be a little bit better at making overlays. And in that gathering of skills, you can make something shine just that little bit extra brighter, make it more eye-catching, make it more impactful. So definitely don't be afraid to network, to ask, to reach out, because there are so many lovely, wonderful, talented people in this space that want to help you.
Yeah. It's a creator space. Everybody's creative in this space. Everybody's creating things. Even as a player, you're creating character. Everybody, you'll find, and it's full of giving people. So I think there's beauty in that in this community, for the most part. We did get our first question in chat from Quinn Beckham, who is awesome and plays in my Magnus Archives game and is fantastic. I'm not going to get into my game. So what helps you get the most community engagement? Like what Rosie said, I feel like whenever I post about charity streams online, they get less engagement than non-charity games, less reposts, shares, etc. And I have a follow-up question to that I had in my list, so I'll let you start with that. Rosie, why don't you start that one and go backwards or something? So it's not always starting in the same place.
Yeah, no, of course. For me, one thing that I have learned, you're not going to get everyone to get eyes on your stream. The world is far too big. The internet is far too noisy for that. I have found that if I know about where the story is going to hit with what sorts of audiences, I tailor my incentives to that. Most recently, I'm in a large West March campaign, and we ran our first ever charity game within that story. Some of the incentives were very goofy things, like Rosie makes their icon the character art of the mailman we have in town for a month. And that got the most traction because I knew that audience. I knew they were going to go for the goofy thing. Or a very popular one has been Wild Surges. $5, yeah, make something funny happen on screen. Make something silly happen in the game. If you can get the audience to be engaged with the story, because at heart we all want to be involved as storytellers, we all want that participation. The more that you can get the audience to engage with the story, the more they're going to bite onto that. Because then they feel part of it. They feel involved. And they feel that they are part of that impact that's happening. So, again, that sort of tailoring of what sort of incentives you put out, which sometimes they're not going to work. Sometimes some incentives are flops. But as far as the social engagement, keep posting. Don't be afraid to repost. Don't be afraid to keep reminding people, because the louder you are, inevitably, the more eyes get on what you're doing. Don't be afraid to be loud, especially for something you care about.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead,
Hector's
Jen.
gonna go.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got this. I'm going to give you something concrete. Don't forget your discords. Sometimes we get really, really wrapped up in our Bluesky, or we get wrapped up on our Instagram, because that is where the most eyes are. But even though Bluesky doesn't have an algorithm, there's only so many people that are going to see it. It's going to be the people that are looking. It's going to be people that are scrolling. And sometimes they might scroll past. It's not that they don't like you. But I find, at least these past couple of months that I've been doing my charity stream, I find that when I remember to go to my Discord communities, because they're a little smaller, it's a little more like, some people, they'll look at the little promo thing more often than they will scroll. Because maybe people are burnt out from doom scrolling, because there's just so much saturation right now. A lot of people will retreat to their Discord communities with the people they trust. And if you've cultivated multiple Discords, it'll be a little bit easier. Another concrete thing that I learned is have the link in your Discord post immediately. Cut as much as you possibly can to make people be able to go, especially if you're doing going live. If you keep it to one click, that's less mental load for people, and they'll be able to jump to your stream and you'll get more eyes on it. More eyes will lead to more donations, etc. And that's my answer.
Now I'll go.
Okay.
I think that it's a difficult one. With the death of Twitter and everyone kind of scrambling to find a social media that works for them. you've just got to go back to your roots, kind of like what Hector was saying, and build the community. Because when the community knows, or when your community knows about it, they will show up. But you've got to ensure that they know about it. Something that I have recently started doing, and I actually didn't do it for my last 3 charity posts for April, so bad on me. But I've started putting in calendar invites because I live, breathe, and die by my calendar, and I know that a lot of other people also do. It might not be that people like are just people might just be forgetting, honestly. Like if it's not in their calendar, it doesn't exist to me if it's not in mine. And so just making sure that you're trying to give a wide buffet of offerings to people, whether that's posting on your Instagram story, posting a reel, posting a TikTok, on the Bluesky, on the threads, in the Discord. Like you've got to meet people where they are, which sucks as a creator. But if you have a team of people that are helping you do it, and like one person is focusing on making a reel that's also going to go to TikTok, and then one person is focusing on making the Bluesky, and one person is focusing on making the Discord, it won't feel as burdensome. Whatever word. Y'all know what I mean.
We understand.
And yeah, asking people who aren't even involved with the stream but you have a relationship with to also be talking about it. Because they don't have, I can only handle so many of my discords. But if you have somebody that is also popular in the space, in a different facet, ask them to help and talk about it, even if they're not on the stream. But utilizing your community in not just talking to them, but getting them to also talk about it.
So to follow up the question that Quinn asked, is there some, like in marketing, there's a funnel. You have to have a funnel to drive people to eventually making a sale, or in this case, a donation. Is there a marketing funnel that you've seen that will successfully gather at the big end and slowly work them down to giving a donation at the end? I mean, I don't know if you're in market, how many of you know marketing well, but if you do, it would make sense to anybody in marketing to try and figure out if there's something like that.
I don't think there's a one size fits all cookie cutter selection, because some of my like most viewed streams in the past have been my least donated to streams. And then on the flip side, my least viewed streams have been my most donated to. So it depends on if the people are feeling your charity at the time, if they've got money in their pocket, and if they feel engaged enough to donate. I do feel like having a matching gift definitely helps my charity streams. Sorry, I'm fidgeting with my pin. So like on Tiltify, if you have $250 that someone has said, I'm going to donate this, it'll pop up on screen and it's red, it's at the very top, and people love that because they love seeing that their money is going twice as far. But as for the marketing funnel, if you figure that out, let me know.
Okay.
Same.
Yeah. I didn't
rough
think
out
there was
here.
a good answer, but I figured out how to ask it.
It's rough out here. I will echo what Jes said about the death of Twitter. Like it wasn't useful anymore, at least for me. But when it was useful, it was. And unfortunately it's not there. And Bluesky's getting there, but it's just
too small right now.
Everything it's just so fractured, and it's really, you add the economy to, I know it's like a broken record, but right now it's just, there's no one funnel right now, which is a marketing nightmare, and I don't even know how people in marketing are being successful right now. Like it's not a good time overall. Not to bring anybody down, but it's just not. And I don't think any of us want to, sugarcoat it for the people that are watching, because we want to inspire you, but we also don't want to lie to you.
Does inspiring people, do you think, lead to more streams or more donations, or just more streams? Like
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
okay.
I think both.
Yeah. Yeah, the more streams there are, the more eyes are out there. You know, like Rosie was saying earlier, different charities are going to resonate with different stories with different audiences. There are a lot of people out there, you know, like because I've been working in sort of like in an our arena of fundraising, you know, and I've been $1,000, couple $1,000, the stuff that Jes does, you start getting up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But like, for example, Critical Role, when they did their charity live stream, I was gobsmacked. It's never like that, but they have a big audience, and they have a lot of people, and that's a lot of eyes,
a big and engaged audience.
Yes, it's big and it's engaged, and there is a lot of eyes. And when you have that many eyes, because not all of those were a couple hundred, some of those people were dropping thousands of dollars. Some of those people were only dropping $5. And the more eyes you have, the more a dollar from multiple people goes a really long way. So the more streams we have, the more eyes we have, the more money is raised for charity. That's why I really want to link up with other channels and see if, you had talked about a funnel, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to do in the future is to use a single Tiltify link and do teamwork. Because even if not that many people show up to my channel, more people might show up to Jes's channel. More people might show up to Diversity Saves the Stream. More people might show up to Rosie, or vice versa, in any combination. And either way, our combined effort has created a bigger number of charity dollars than it would be if just one of us had raised money for that one cause.
Can I rewind you for just a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because you said something that made like a little light bulb go off. You were talking about Critical Role and how people were literally dropping $5,000 for a specific, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was for a specific reward that was tied to the game.
Yeah.
And we've talked a little bit about how you want to make your charity stream engaging for your viewers. And something that I found really helpful is not only tying the different rewards and incentives into the game that you're going to be playing, like Rosie was talking about earlier, but also having a wide range of price types. So having something at 5 to 10, so even though it's entry level, people still feel like their donations are going to help change the game. Maybe it's just a +1 to a roll, maybe it's a reroll, but they're gifting someone that in the time of need, and that could be the difference between somebody getting eaten by a dragon or surviving another round of combat. Whereas when you get to that higher stake, higher donation at like that 50, 75, 100, people are like, yes, I am really involved in this game and my donation so matters. So I think just making sure that you're making the entry point as low as possible for some people, but then still giving a wide variety.
And those low entry points, do not knock them.
No.
Speaking from experience, because I do tend to
No.
offer a like $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100 in any given stream. There was one time that my group was against a big bad, like the final boss of this stream. Everyone donated so much. There was a $5 incentive for what was called a beasting. It was just a D4 of damage. The players never had to touch the BBEG because so many people donated beasting. So I'm like, okay, a swarm of bees comes in and just annihilates this dragon. Good job, everyone. But it was wild that that's the thing people went for. It was the lowest tier item, the lowest tier incentive. But man, was that impactful, because people wanted to be impactful in that moment. They wanted to influence the story in a very big way. And coming together as they did, It did. It was very funny because the players are just sitting there going, "Oh, that's not a problem anymore. Next fight, let's go." But yes, I think diversifying your offering of incentives is crucial because people will donate at different levels as they are available to or as they are able to. It gives people options. And like Jess said, having those sort of small things like maybe it's a reroll and that does save someone's butt, or maybe it's something much higher stake later into the game. These things matter to both narratively and to the audience that wants to be impactful.
And also those little one, the not little, the lower level tiers. I always, when I'm coaching GMs on my streams to create their incentives, I tier them as less intrusive, mildly intrusive, more intrusive. Those less intrusive are repeatable. People will come back at that lower level, and then marketing them to it's already been said, but I'm going to give an example because it's the two funniest things that have ever happened to me. Marketing them to what you're actually doing. So for Haunted Holidays this year, we had one game that was a cozy, super cute, cozy game. We had a $10 tier. The GM, $10 tier, thinking it wasn't going to be used very much, was to give the party a pet, and the party ended the game with 8 pets. And they were all named, and it was beautiful, and they just loved it. And it was a super cozy game, and they were just like toting all these little animals around and stuff like that.
That's
On
a
the
game in and of
flips,
itself.
yes, it was perfect. Tea Time Adventures, I think is what the game is called. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Freaking love it. Anyway, on the flip side, they don't always have to be positive incentives because my first Weave Racers game tournament, which Weave Racers is a multi-game tournament of like Mario Kart type RPG stuff, and then the winners of each of the games come together for a finale. Friend of the ZealZaddy channel, Morgan, also two-time Weave Racers champion. The first year
And brags about it all the time.
brags about it all the time. Ask Morgan about it. It's amazing. In the finale, we had an incentive that was you could either donate an advantage or disadvantage. And at one point, the chat did not want Morgan to win, and Morgan had 15 disadvantages stacked. Still managed to win. It was one of the funniest things. But people were just back to back to back donating disadvantages because they were antagonizing. And Morgan was being Morgan and just like, come at me, come get me, just kind of egging it on. It was so beautiful. And yet somehow Morgan was two-time Weave Racer champion. Maybe 3. I don't know. I got to get around to getting that third tournament in.
While we're on this subject, before we go to the next question, because I have something else that I would like to add and a channel I want to shout out. Wounded Warrior Project. Sam, and if you ever run this subject of Story Talk again, you got to invite Sam from Wounded Warrior Project, because the setup that she has for her stories, which are both for Eden Falls and for Fourth Age, which is the Lord of the Rings one that they do, is they have blessings and they have curses. Now, blessings are less expensive. Blessings are $5. Curses are 15. So you can even craft it to your personal storytelling style and to what the themes of the game are. And they have, some various other higher incentives. But what else that they have is they have donation goals. And once they reach about either 150 or 200, depending on the campaign, they will have a moment of hope and shadow in Fourth Age, for example. And that will be like a flashback of the character, a reveal. In Eden Falls, they have a supernatural occurrence when something big and scary and supernatural happens. And what this does is that it encourages people to, even if you're just giving $10, $5, $15, as a group, the people watching it can up until something happens. And that has a big impact. And that really inspires people to come back and continue to donate from episode to episode again and again and again. And some big donor people will just drop 100, if they have the money to make it. Like I've seen it go up because they literally have a bar in the graphics and the overlay that shows you it going up. And it's neat because like Tiltify will give you, all the graphics that you need and everything, but like Sam actually makes the donation bars and the blessings and curses like will pop up with the names like you were talking about earlier, Jes. But it's all done in like a uniform, beautiful, like it matches the overlay. It has the same font, the same colors, and like they do a great job of taking those small incentives and then turning those small incentives into something bigger, which essentially creates like a donation spiral where you're constantly having those donations coming in.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Are there donation incentives that you've seen that don't work particularly well, or just about anything will drive some reasonable number of donations? Are there things that people think bring in a lot but really don't?
I think it depends on your audience. I typically use like the same 5, and sometimes they're hot and sometimes they're not. My standard are $10 reroll, $25 auto success, 50, excuse me, I've recently changed. $35 is a wild magic surge, or a calamity roll if I'm playing any other TTRPG, and I've made a really silly sheet that has things like turn into a Muppet version of yourself or grow a biblically accurate amount of eyeballs. $50 is name the next NPC, and then $100 is everyone rolls for Calamity. And sometimes all 5 are super well purchased, and sometimes it's only like 1 or 2. So the more you can tailor it to your specific game, like Rosie was saying, I think the better.
I also agree with that. And if you're playing a game that it feels like it's hard to find multiple rewards because they're either rules light or it gets too complicated, um, I have also seen I've also seen uh, where they tailor them to the people. And I watched one where it was a $250 donation would cause the whole game to stop and the whole cast would have to karaoke a Disney song. And it was fantastic. It happened twice. Um, so yeah, don't feel trapped by your game system. You can also just do fun things. Uh, somebody also had a box of hats next to them, and when a donation came through, they had to change their hat. Just silly things like that.
I've seen like shots of hot sauce. They do
Yes.
that over at Logomancy Media. Very,
Mhm.
it's cringe, but it makes money.
It does.
Um, uh,
Poor players.
I will, yeah. Hey, buy-in. Make sure these are definitely not things you want to inflict. These are definitely things that people should be volunteering for. Safety is paramount. But if you have people willing to make a fool of themselves for charity, even if it's not in theme, especially if it's for a one shot,
Yeah.
and people's friends will come out of the woodwork and just be like, yeah, I want to see so and so take a shot of hot sauce in the middle of this encounter with a dragon. I just think that would be funny. And if the player is comfortable with that and the player is willing to do that, then let them do it.
If they can't cry on stream, they have to take a shot of hot sauce to make themselves cry.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's like the hot wings thing, right? Like,
Totally.
the more, and that could even be a fun one right there. We just came up with one. Like somebody has like a tray of super hot wings, and for every X amount, $5, they have to eat like a really, really hot wing. And the higher the donations, the more wings they have to eat. Maybe it's a cozy game where you're in a restaurant, or maybe it's a D&D game, or maybe it's a game about, maybe it's a Monster of the Week game where you have to survive the Super Bowl, so there are ways of kind of taking the humor that we were talking about and the stunts, and melding them with the story you're telling.
Yeah, don't be
Um,
afraid to be a little bit cringe within safety. Like I've
yes.
done the shots of lemon juice. I've done wasabi Kit Kats, which are vile.
Ooh,
I did I don't know if you've seen it, but the really hideous Dungeon Master costume from Spirit Halloween, that was a goal, and we hit it because people wanted to see me put that bald cap on. It's amazing the sorts of donations that'll come in when you put a little bit of your own what is
Dignity.
it? Ego on the line, dignity on the line.
yeah,
Because people will buy into that faster than just about anything.
yeah,
If you're willing to let a little bit of that ego or dignity go, yeah, it's worth a couple dollars. Again, within safety. And if you can get your players in on it, even better. We've had pun offs because we had players that hated puns but subjected themselves to it because it was hilarious, and people would donate $5 to make someone else tell them puns for like 2 minutes. It's there's so many ways you can get creative and get a little bit silly with it. Don't be afraid to be a little bit silly, because at the end of the day, when you're broadcasting, when you're raising funds, you are meant to be a little bit entertaining. You're telling a story, but if you can get people to laugh or cry or evoke emotion, they're
yeah.
going to connect with you better. They're going to want to engage more with it, and they're going to be more likely to donate or engage in some way, whether it is inspiring them to go and do their own thing, or to get them to spread the word, or to donate. There are so many ways in which your community can blow up within the things that you are putting forth for them.
I've also seen those mystery gross jelly beans. Those are also really popular.
That is where I draw the line.
What, you don't want a booger jelly bean? Or what was the other one that was really awful? Vomit, I think, was the other one that was like, really? That's a jelly bean? Like
Those are
that.
so popular, though.
I know. I mean, yeah, the less humility you have, the more you can make. It sounds like if you're willing to put it all on the line, people will pay you for that. Which is what makes it cringe, but also what makes it fun and funny and goofy. And I mean, it, for the most part, I'm assuming we're talking about one shots, and nobody's looking for the Lord of the Rings in a 3 hour stream. They're looking for the goblin like camp cook making a mess on everyone. Like, so the dirtier, messy it gets, probably the more fun. Speaking of, do charity streams that are campaign length, do they do well? Is that a thing that people do, and is it a profitable way to go for the charities, or is it just all one shots for the most part?
There are definitely campaign length ones. I know that that's what I'm working on. It's particularly for my Wanderhome series, The Season's Oath. Um, yeah, we started off with a bigger charity, but we've gone on to Project Hope. And that's probably going to be our charity all the way to the end, because I want to do like 12 episodes. Um, there are some channels like Sword and Key, for example, that have a specific charity for every single campaign that they run.
Oh,
And while the goal is, and then they do have like donation goals, but it's like a long-term goal, essentially. One shots are more for like um compressed. And I feel like those tend to raise more money, I think, but that's me, because like that's kind of where I've been a lot, when you have a collection of one shots or you do like 48 hours, because it creates what we call in the sales world a sense of urgency. If you can you build a sense of urgency, and you can use that sense of urgency to get people to donate. And that's kind of how the one shots or the weekend streams work. And that kind of comes from the video game world, or at least the first time I saw it was from the video game world, back when people would do let's plays on YouTube, and then streams started becoming popular, and then speed runners were doing it, and now I've seen it in the TTRPG space more with like month long or weekend long. But that isn't to say that long-term APs don't do that. Like, I think Sword and Key does a great job, and they've raised a lot of money that way. Um, So it's both. I will defer to those who have been doing this longer for extra information because I think I've been doing charity organizing the shortest amount of time.
I don't really have a lot of experience doing the campaigns. Um, I have done again, we're gonna say Weave Racers, because it it was a weekend tournament yearly. And so people do tend to like to come back to that kind of thing. And when I get around to year three, we'll get to there. But yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with campaigns, but I'm also very interested in trying it. Um, it doesn't 100% work with the diversity saves channel because we are featuring so much stuff that I don't want to get bogged down yet with a campaign, but I will probably do it at some point just because it sounds fun.
Speaking from my own experience, a lot of like once per year, I'll do a campaign length, which to me means 4 episodes. It's a mini campaign. Um, I have found a lot of success in those in a couple of aspects. The biggest one being it is a lot easier to pitch a campaign length event to a sponsor than it is to pitch a one shot. That's not saying that one shots won't get sponsors. It's a lot of companies do actually have a charity budget set aside. So don't be afraid to ask and reach out to companies. But it is a lot easier to put together a pitch deck for a campaign and to get those sponsorships because they're going to get more ad time. They're going to get more spots. They're going to get more viewership because you're running longer. You can put a little bit higher production value on campaign length because it's going to run longer. You're not just doing one overlay for a one shot. You can make it a little bit more eye-catching. I know when I do mine, I always do a complete like 1 minute long title screen that introduces the players and what we're doing and all of that. So you can put a little bit extra into them, make them a little bit more polished. Not that a one shot can't be polished, but you can put that little bit more effort into something that's going to be running longer because eyes are going to be on it longer. When you are running something longer, you're going to be advertising for it week over week, which means that it has a higher probability of being viewed, of being clicked on. And then if people come in at episode 2 or episode 3, oh, I got to catch up on episode 1 or episode 2, see what happens. Build that story, get them engaged, get them invested. So I have personally found a lot of fun and a lot of success in that arena of storytelling, in that you can do a little bit more with it than a one shot because you have a longer runway for it.
I've never done a charity campaign that's been
What?
more than one episode at a time. So I don't really have a lot to say on it. But I know that there have been some really successful ones, like Roll for Initiative. Jesse Jerdak did that live from the apocalypse. They do lots of streams that are more than just one shots or short series, and they stream for one charity per month, and just every time they're live, they're donating to that specific charity. And I think that that works really well for them from like an outsider looking in because their audience knows what they're about. Every time that they log on to Twitch and see that Live from the Apocalypse is live, they know that they're raising funds for a charity. And I think that that's super, super cool and very respectable.
Does the system matter? Does it add or detract from the donations if it's, say, Pathfinder or D&D versus Wanderhome or Triangle Agency? Would all that matter? Like, does that matter at all to donation giving, and even to the number of people in chat and what have you? Your potential pool.
As somebody who does game design, it's interesting you bring up does system matter. I think system matters in the sense of when you are gamifying your donation incentives. This is a very concrete, very clinical answer, because the real answer is no, not really, because as we mentioned before, you can do stunts, you can do based on the person. However, but more mechanically robust games, such as Pathfinder, D&D 5th edition. We could even go, even more esoteric here, anima, Palladium games, things that have a lot of like knobs and buttons. All of those little knobs and buttons, all of those little bonuses, all of those little disadvantages can all be turned into an incentive, especially if you're willing to do $10, $5. So in the sense of the process of sitting down and being like, okay, I need to make incentives. Yes, a more mechanically robust game, you're probably going to have an easier time because you're going to find more knobs in the system itself that can be turned by your audience for donation incentives. Doesn't make it better, but it does make it easier, if that makes sense, right? Like there's no, it's not like a value judgment here. It's more of a mechanical judgment. You're just going to be more challenged with a more rules-like game for your incentives. And that's okay. Not every game is going to be easy to come up with incentives. And that doesn't mean every charity has to be Pathfinder, and it doesn't mean every charity has to be D&D. It's just a matter of how much mental load do you have available, how well do you know the system, and how intimate are you with these systems. My suggestion would be, if you really want to be able to just, if you know D&D or if you know a crunchy game and you know you can tell a good story, go ahead and go with the crunchier game if you want to be able to easily be like incentive here, incentive here, incentive here, incentive here. That's my feedback to that question.
I want to take it in a different direction because
Please do.
that is how I like to operate as well. But as I've become more about not just the fund part of doing charity streams, especially with diversity saves, your game choice can also really help with your representation, with your education. If we are running a stream, like for our Black History Month stream last year, we ran a Cyberpunk game because that is something that was created by a Black creator. When we do Hispanic heritage or we did it also for Haunted Holidays. Noir is also an excellent game that our people that we've brought on have loved to play because it is also teaching about Hispanic heritage and different things about culture. And so if you're quite creative, you can find an incentive for almost all these games. We sometimes have to sit down and think really hard to find an incentive because it's not inherently built into it like it would be D&D. But keeping the open mind of using that as part of your education and representation when choosing your game is also a really good point.
Can I build on that?
Yes.
Okay, so my direct experience with what Nicola's talking about, Pride. Every single year, and I've been doing Pride, that's where I've probably done the most charity streams as a GM, as a player. I have yet to do any organizing behind the scenes, but that's going to change this year. I have a very specific laundry list of games that I run for Pride. When I'm getting ready to do my pitches for Pride charity streams, it's Thirsty Sword Lesbians, it's Girl by Moonlight, it's Glitter Hearts, it's Sleepaway, it's Monster Hearts. I look for LGBT affirming games and creators, and I only run those pitches for Pride. It is so, like, thank you so much, Nekola, for bringing up the games as representation. Like, it's especially for Pride, and that's kind of my lane, the LGBT community, is yes, system does matter, it not just mechanically, like I said earlier, but also thematically. Native American Awareness Month. Run Coyote and Crow.
Yep.
Run Coyote and Crow. If we are, talking about I know in March, multiple channels will do like TTRPG Girls that Euphoria is doing. They'll do all games that are written by women, about women's issues, all women. And it's, yeah, I can't believe I didn't even think about that. I think I was just so focused on like, oh, I think I know what Zaddy's asking, but
I was asking a question for you to answer how you felt it needed to be answered.
yeah, yeah. And that's my build off of that theme of the games that you're running. System does matter.
Halloween run horror, maybe.
Right.
Another easy
Haunted
theme.
holidays. We run Christmas
Oh,
horror at Diversity
Yeah.
Saves.
look,
Love Christmas horror.
I love that you do that because it is a old winter solstice tradition to tell scary stories around the fire. That's a thing that
You
I
should
feel like
bring
a
it
lot
back.
of people in America don't know about. It's really common in Europe. You know, they have the Krampus parade and all of that.
Yeah.
So I love it. The only time I got it was when I was a young man. I used to watch a show called Dawson's Creek, and they would always do a winter chill, which was when because the guy who was the head writer is also the same guy who wrote the Scream films, Kevin Williamson, who loves horror, and he would always do like scary anthology episodes of Dawson's Creek every winter, and I was like, why? And then I did research and I found out about this old European Christmas tradition where you tell scary stories in December.
What about for
I
you,
have
Jess?
forgotten the original question.
Does
Does
the,
the game matter?
The system
Right, the
matters
system.
for charity fundraisers. So sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I think it does, and also it doesn't. I'm gonna be so annoying and say it really just goes back to your audience. For me, when I am okay, so I don't GM on my charity streams. I do everything else. I play, I'll produce, look at the Tiltify, but I don't GM because that stresses me out when it's done in a public setting and people can comment on it live. No thanks. So when I'm talking to GMs, to have them come on to the charity stream, first we pickle down on a date, and then I tell them whatever game is exciting to you that you think will be exciting to an audience to come and watch and then donate works for me. You also need to be able to teach it to me if I don't know how to play. So like in May, I'm going to be learning Kobolds Ate My Baby. I've never
which
played
is
that
awesome.
before, but
Oh, I
I'm
need that.
excited for it. It looks so cute.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot of games because of this that have turned out to be so much fun. Mika Goggleboy just taught me how to play Grimoire Punk for my TTRPG charity stream in March. And so you've just got to be able to pitch it to the right people and to put in tags on Twitch and YouTube that are going to help drive you to that right audience. Because there's always going to be an audience for D&D, whether it's 5e, whether it's 2024, whatever those rules are, I don't know yet. That's always going to have an audience, but sometimes you gotta fine tune it to get the right people that are gonna want to watch that new indie game that not necessarily a lot of people have heard about before.
Yep. Echoing, it does and doesn't matter. I think especially when you're going thematically with the time of year, especially if you're around holidays, and with the charity that you're running with. So, for example, I tend to do a lot of work around the holidays with Starlight Children's Foundation because they have a 12 days of streaming event. It would be super discordant for me to run a slasher story. Like that just would not fit. So being mindful of the cause that you're raising for, what else might be going on in the world, whether it's holidays or just general ambient tone. And I think that does impact decisions. It does impact the type of story that you do tell. D&D is always going to have an audience, but some of my best meaning like highest viewership, highest engagement, have been with more indie titles. Tea Time Adventures, which Nekola had mentioned, one of my favorites because it does have built-in diversity with the NPCs. There is such a beautifully written host of characters that already exist in that world, It's got a little bit of the crunchiness that D&D has, so it's easy to make incentives for. And it fits so softly because the stories themselves are soft. It is gentle. It is like getting a bedtime story. And that fits a lot with the types of charities that I tend to partner with, which are things like Extra Life and Starlight Children's Foundation, which are for kids. And you want to be able to align that with the theme and with the feeling that you're going for, that you're trying to evoke when you are fundraising. So does matter in that you want to be mindful. Doesn't matter in that at the end of the day, we are all telling stories and we know what we like. We know where our strengths and weaknesses are within those systems. And if we know when we're going to fumble with a system versus flourish in it, if it's a system we're super familiar with, we are going to be able to tell a better story because of that familiarity.
And can I just add one thing on real
Yeah.
quick?
Mhm.
I would say that even if you haven't worked with a charity before, being able to tell a really good story specifically about the charity that you're raising funds for is so incredibly important. Something that I've seen people struggle with before is they'll come on, they'll say, we're raising funds for da 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 da, and then they don't say anything again. If you don't say what the mission is, what you can help get funded by raising X amount of dollars, you've got to paint a picture about the charity, or people, unless they already have a tie to it, aren't going to care. Because there are thousands of organizations out there that are constantly vying for attention and constantly vying for money that people already know. So unless you give the people a reason to care about the charity that you care about, they might not. So just wanted to add that in there also.
And I'm going to wrap it right back up to representation, because if you are, for example, raising funds for a trans organization that helps trans people, and there is not a person on your team to talk about it, to have the experience to kind of guide you, come on. Representation. It's great. You'll love it. I promise.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes. See you in a few on the other side. And we'll be talking about casting. So, as I said before our break, I wanted to ask about casting. So, what is involved in casting and vetting the players and GMs that are going to be running your games? So I suspect both are equally important and valuable to do.
A lot.
A lot.
Um,
This
Yeah.
is a stream to explore it and say, the complexities of it.
Something that is really important to me is having a diverse cast, not only outwardly, but also inwardly, with things that you can't necessarily see. And so I always try to have 50% of my cast being BIPOC. And then it's also really important for me to have queer folks, gender queer, as well as in their sexuality on stream. And then also making sure that you have a cast that meshes with each other in play styles. Because if you have, 5 people that are like really goofy and I'm just here for a fun time, but then you have one person that's like, no, we're here to slay the dragon and that is our purpose. I think that that's really, really important. And so either picking people based on vibes of like what type of player you've seen them be in the past, or setting that tone in session 0 can also be important. Um, but that's one thing that I try to like think of as I put cast together. I have like a really big long list of like people that I would like to invite to be on a TTRPG charity stream with me, but I'm just one person, and so I can only get through like 5 people a month, and so the list keeps on growing instead of shrinking, as it's supposed to be. But one thing that I try to do is watch, different clips of the people that I invite on, as well as check out their social media. You might not be able to tell everything about a person based on their social media, but you can get a pretty good vibe of what they're like and if they're going to mesh with you and your channel. So those are just a handful of the things that I look out for.
We do that as well as word of mouth and like references. That can save you a lot of time if you are building your community and you're building your trust between each other. You're all on the same page, aligning with the same values of what you're looking for. Um, Getting opinions and references from people is also a really big help. Occasionally, I'll just let my GMs pick their entire cast, and then I will do a social media vetting. But yeah, it is really helpful.
I feel like I have a really thorough process in comparison because I'd pull it out like a full-on application. So I have a form that I utilize, especially if I'm doing a campaign length charity endeavor. If it's a one shot, I might just reach out to people that I know or people that I've wanted to work with and people that I've already sort of pre-vetted. For something a little bit longer and more involved, one of the first things I'll do after I've already like developed the pitch deck, after I've already developed the basis of the story, is put out a casting call, put out an application that asks for basic things like socials and identifiers, making sure that you have a diverse, not only application pool, but like cast once you eventually get to the casting process. All of that feeds into a spreadsheet automatically, which is lovely because then I can filter down by different answers. I can filter down what are people most excited for, or what sorts of identifiers did they select, or being able to have everyone's socials in one spot and just click through and get that sort of vibe check from the socials before actually reaching out and getting to talk with them a little bit. I've done interviewing before, not in like a formal sense, but just, hey, let's talk for 5, 10 minutes and see if we mesh first of all. And what are you excited about for this project? Why do you want to be involved? Is it something that you're going to be able to put your heart and time into effectively? Because if someone doesn't want to be there, why be there? So it is often for me when I'm doing one of those larger projects, a 2 to 3 week process with all the applications. But that also provides me, I think my largest application pool was 78 people one time for a 5 spot game, which was very difficult to narrow down. But in getting all that information ahead of time, getting those where have I seen you befores, or what projects have you been on, or looking into where they have other content posted, seeing their clips, seeing their general vibe. Are they more into serious storytelling, funny storytelling? Where are their comforts that you can then play to if you're GMing it or finding a GM that meshes with that group? It is a lengthy process. I'm probably way too thorough with it, but it has led me to some very solid, very cohesive, and very diverse casts, which I have been so proud of each one that I've put together because we have had a wonderful, fun, and just amazing storytelling time with it. I've never had a cast sort of flop. I've always made sure to have them meet even before session 0 just to talk, not even talk shop, not talk mechanics, not talk here's my character, just to see how they get along, because camaraderie is such a big part of storytelling in this space. So while my process is a bit lengthy, it does go a long way in ensuring diversity and that camaraderie, that cohesiveness that we're looking for when we want to tell a story.
Hey, Rosie.
Yeah.
I want you to stop talking crap about your process because if it works for you, it works for you.
It's so long though.
Yes, and yourself.
Yeah. My process is even narrower. I've been in this space about 3 or 4 years. And for the majority of it, it was, I'm just going to play on other people's streams. And then that turned into, okay, I'm going to start DMing on other people's streams. Now that I'm producing and running my own streams over on House of Dreams, and this is my mentor, which I'm not ashamed to call them my mentor, and my friend, Trooper SJP over at Academic Foxhole.
Love.
Yeah, he and I had a
Fantastic.
lot of back and forth discussions, a lot of direct mentorship, which I'm very blessed to have. Uh, so I pick and invite my people directly. I have corroborated, when I have worked on other people's channels. For example, Rosie went through an application process, but that was at Pencil's Table. No, not Pencil's Tables. That was at Misadventures League. But that's the way they do it. The way I prefer to do it is it's very similar to Jes. I have a list of people. I have a number of Discord communities that I work in. And what I like to do is I do not do open calls anymore. If I do anything that is an open call, it will be in very specific Discord communities that I have vetted, that I have played in, where I know the majority of the people there, or at the very least, I know the majority of the people organizing the community, and that I share values with. And from there, I will typically do like a form invitation where I will have all the information, what the dates are, when session 0 is going to be, what it's about, a clear warning saying that this is, for charity. I don't have enough money to pay you yet. I lay it all on the line. I have it basic, and then I personalize it to every single person that I invite, because some of the people that I invite, I have played with. What the letter is going to look like for Rosie is not going to look like the way it would for Jes. But if you put them two together, you'll be like, oh, Hector put some thought into this and, edited a few things. But that's okay. We're all organizers, and I know most people are going to understand if they do put their letters together. And then typically, I'll do a session 0 and I will see what the vibes are. So essentially all of my vetting is done over the course of building relationships with people. And then I will just pick my cast based on that. Right now, I'm doing mostly all people of color. However, that is mostly because I started a Season's Oath for Black History Month. So I wanted it to be all people of color. And I'm going through all of my people of color entertainers, but I don't have as strong as a restriction on, like, I don't have a 50% mandatory, but I try to balance that out with other intersectionality. For example, yes, maybe I only have 1 or 2 people of color, but everyone else at the table will either be a member of the LGBT community, or they will be disabled, or they will be, overweight. I know some people don't like the F word. Some people love the F word. But, I've been focusing now a bit more on the intersectionality is what really matters to me. And I understand that, like, as a person of color, I can always be like, oh, well, I'll be very honest. I'll be like, I'm the GM, it's my table. I also, and I'm going to be a little saucy here, I don't like the phrase, no, we're all queer, doesn't count. As a person of color, and I know people of color who have said this, I deeply dislike that, because what it does is that it associates queerness with whiteness. And that is not okay. I get it. The experiences of people of color who are queer are different than the experiences of queer people who are white. That does not make them any less queer, and it any less diverse for everyone at the table. And I know that this is probably gonna, like, not make me very popular in the space for saying this. You don't have to share a table with me. And that is what I have to say about diversity in charity cast.
Damn, I gotta follow that up. I have an addition, something that Rosie was saying about her vetting processes. When I put together a casting call, the first thing that they see when they get to my form is me telling them, we use consent tools. If you're not okay with that, don't fill out the form, because I don't want to read a form from somebody I'm not going to let in anyway. So I have found that like I track how many times it gets looked at and then see how many people actually fill it out. And I know that some people who look at it are leaving because they aren't interested in a table that has consent tools. Perfect. I don't want you in my game anyway. So I found that like warnings in the form can be useful and beneficial. So
Okay,
and I would
Scott,
like to
you
call
also
them
have
warnings.
people like me though that have to look at it like 4 or 5 times before they finally fill it out. So-
I'm right there with you.
I think you actually almost
Yeah.
didn't you ask me to no, you didn't ask me to fill it out for you. Somebody did that once. I was like,
Oh
I can do
yeah.
it myself. I can do
Um,
it myself. It's just gonna take me because like once it's not on my screen, it doesn't exist to me. I have to put a calendar invite to get the stuff done.
yeah.
I'm the same way. Like time, there's just so much, especially now when you're starting your own thing. I'll look at that casting form and I'll be like, no, I don't think I have the time. Or yeah, but the project's really great. And then like I'm with you, Jess. Sometimes it will take me 3 or 4 times before
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I have the time. I can do the project. Between, oh, I forgot, and you're, oh, my tabs, and you'll exit out. And just be aware, Scott, that some of us are skewing the numbers because we're not
Yeah,
able to commit
I'm
a
actually
fourth time we look at the form.
actually based on some stuff from Trooper SGP. I'm looking at doing some invite only games too. To test. I want to test the waters of it. I'm also looking at maybe doing my first paid players game to see what that does. Like I'm always trying to find things that work well, so that might be a thing. Also, we did get a question in chat. Does follower count have a big effect? That was funny. Nicholas like, I don't know. Like, does it draw in more
great part.
donations?
Great part about having a team. I suck at social media. I don't know. I got a team. Somebody else does that. I'm not good at it.
Community
depends.
helps.
Community helps.
Community
Community
helps.
does help.
Yeah. I wouldn't say follower count. I would say community. If it's somebody with a dedicated community, like Trooper brought a lot of people, not like hundreds, but like dedicated people that I know from Trooper's Discord and Trooper's channel came, watched, donated when Trooper was on my channel. So same thing with Honey, same thing with Umbral Knight. Like I got my dream cast for my first big, charity stream. It's not the numbers, it's the people. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I realize I just said I don't know anything about social media, but there definitely is a difference. There, like a threshold. Like a lot of people will sit around the same number and then it is about the community. But then when you jump up to like, Brennan Lee Mulligan level of followers, there is definitely a difference that can't be discounted. But it also can't always be relied on.
I think that a follower count is like a man with a big penis. It might be big, but if they don't know how to use it, doesn't matter. But like, I'm serious though, because if they aren't willing to like repost or share out the information about the charity stream, like their community isn't going to hear about it unless you have overlap of your community and their community. So
Maybe
depends.
loudness may be the more important trait. Do they scream about it all the time, constantly?
Exactly.
Yeah, like part of that sort of vibe check when I'm looking through the socials of people that are on my application forms is seeing, okay, they might have 2,000 followers, but are all of their posts just them talking without other people responding? How much engagement are they getting, really? Who are they, like, which circles are they in? Which communities are they part of? Are they just loud with no substance, which I've seen happen in some of these applications where someone has a following, maybe because they post pretty selfies, but they're not getting a lot of interaction. They're not getting a lot of that community vibe that I really want to look for when I'm going through applications. It's how involved are they when they are on a project, and how involved are they with the people around them? Are they isolated? Are they isolated themselves? Or are they really involved and really vocal within the spaces that they are present? So I think there is something to be said about follower count, but it is definitely not everything. I've had people with 17 followers that were some of the most passionate on my casts. And I've had people that have thousands that are still very passionate, but it just all depends. It depends on people. It comes down to people themselves, not necessarily a number. A number is only going to tell you a little bit of everything else they've got going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't fall into the video game streamer trap. I have heard about people running streams thinking they were going to increase their numbers and increase their donations by bringing on an incredibly popular video game streamer to the TTRPG space and it not working out and the numbers not being there and nobody showing up. If you have a friend that's a video game streamer and they're a good vibe and you think they're going to tell a good story, invite them by all means, but don't just invite somebody because they have a lot of big numbers and video game streams. That's why I reacted so strongly, because organizing these things is a lot of hard work, and I don't want anybody else to be disappointed by mismatched expectations with the numbers, especially if it's not an overlapping community.
I tend to ignore the number, but that is a thing specific to the fact that my fundraising now is exclusively by my own doing for diversity saves. And the point of our streams is to get more people out there. So don't overlook those 17 follower people. They are fantastic and we love them. And they are always really good. Especially since we did just lose a whole social media platform and everybody's rebuilding on the other ones.
Numbers mean nothing right now.
Exactly. Absolutely nothing. Cultivate your community.
So when you're looking for GMs, what are your red and green flags for a good charity GM? Because in my mind, I suspect it's not the same thing as just a good GM for running a game. I suspect, not having done it, that there's a few extra traits you want to have.
If they've done charity work before, whether with themselves or partnered up, what is their track record for social engagement in that space, in that vein of fundraising? Do they have a track record? If not, or even if so, how willing are they to work with you? If you're talking with them a little bit, where are their hard lines as far as how much control they're willing to give up for the sake of incentives or for the sake of production or for the sake of fundraising itself? Because the fundraising is the focus. So I think you are looking for just a little bit extra when you are reaching out to GMs or casting GMs, is what is their passion for this cause? And are they willing to give up a little bit of control? Because GMs like being in control. We know this. That's why we GM, to be in control. But I think that is part of it is, yeah, how compassionate are they? How willing are they going to be to participate in this endeavor? And have they done something like this before? What is, again, their history in that space?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm kind of with Jes on like a good story. Are they a good storyteller? Do they got a good, and then their experience doing charities is kind of secondary. It's weird, right? Because I will be very, very honest. It's like, on the one hand, when I was putting together the long-term wildness that is the Rose Court Project, which is my charity thing that hasn't happened yet. When I was recruiting DMs for that, on the one hand, I was like, oh, my friend Tan Fighter at Pantsless Tables, I play in his D&D campaign. He's such a great storyteller. He does great voices. I think he'd be really entertaining. But I was also excited to recruit Candace the Magnificent because she also tells really good stories, but she also knows what goes into the behind the scenes. She's been on successful charity streams. So like, but I was excited to have them both. Does that make sense? Like, it's not that it doesn't matter. It's that I think with DMs specifically, everything matters, right? The bare minimum is I need somebody that I trust to tell a good story. I need somebody that's going to take care of the tables at the table. And if they also have experience and if they also have like, a wide community, then that is the icing on the cake. But the cake itself is what matters.
And
I'm gonna
I'll-
use. Oh,
Nope,
sorry.
you first.
I'm gonna use my favorite word, representation. If you are going out and getting another GM, look for a GM that actually might be knowledgeable about your charity as well. Unless you are co-hosting with your GM, a lot of times the GM is the host. And so you want to make sure that in addition to all of those things that were already said, because all of it's important and you need a good storyteller and a good improviser, you also want somebody who is going to be passionate and maybe even have experience with the charity or the community that the charity is benefiting, things like that. And then I'm going to pass it to Jes, but I'm also going to say that Jes, at the beginning of this question, made a face that I related to so hard because some of these questions, I didn't actually think about the fact that I do have a process when I do these. And it's like, no, I just pick a GM and I know that that's the GM that it's going to be. And it's like, oh, why did I pick that? Oh, this is all the reasons. So yes, I get it.
So I don't think that a GM needs to have experience with a particular charity if they're the host of the stream and you're not hosting, as long as you can give them bullet points of good topics that they should hit, I think that they can do it on their own. I mean, they're a storyteller. That's why you've asked them to GM. And I also don't think that a GM needs to have charity stream experience. As long as they are a good collaborative storyteller, I think that they will work with you, especially if you're like very forthcoming with what you'd like to do, and seeing if that sounds okay with them. For me specifically, when I pick my GMs, I tell them all you have to do is GM. You're going to queue me up when to go to break, and we're going to immediately go to break after I get done telling people to go and donate while we're away doing our shrimp checks. So like it's a little bit of a give and take with a GM, and it depends on what kind of a system you have in place. But as long as you're able to coach, I think that anyone that is comfortable with GMing in front of a screen, because not everyone is comfortable. I think any GM can be a good charity GM. So that's my spin on it.
How far in advance
I
should you? Oh, go on. Sorry.
I agree that every GM will be a excellent charity. I will reinforce the match your GM with what you're doing. That is just a super passionate thing of mine. There are certain GMs that absolutely do not align with communities for certain charities. And so that is a thing to take into consideration, is to make sure that the charity you're benefiting actually, the GM is a good fit for it. That's a very passionate thing that tends to get skipped. But yeah.
How far in advance do you plan your charity, your stream, and how far in advance does your GM need to be brought in and prepped and begin prepping for that stream?
My 2025 lineup was for the charities at least. And now this is very general because disasters happen. And I like to be able to respond to that, but I like to do a full year in advance. And then I typically work 3 to 4 months in advance, starting to get my GM game picked and then getting my players picked. So then we can like have a session 0 and have enough time to get everything together. And so it's early, it's in advance, but people also have calendars that fill up very quickly because as we know, we all live and breathe and die by our calendars, right? So
Yep.
it's a little silly how early it is sometimes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I will piggyback off of Jess. Early as you can. Concrete example for our Black History Month celebration. We started planning in October of the previous year. We didn't bring on board our GMs until January, February, December, January. We got the ball running at the beginning of February. Now, I shortcutted because cheating is not the word I want to use this. I shortcutted because as soon as we were done wrapping up the Black History Month charity, I rolled my campaign, which I was the GM for, into the next month. So there was no need to look for a separate GM because I was already GMing it. Mind you, I have a producer that helps me with the charity aspects and the tech and an artist and everything. So I have done the divide thing. So it's one of those things where plan as early as you can, set your dates, set your cast as early as you can. But technically none if you're keeping the ball rolling from one charity into the other and you've already secured your GM, which is why having a team is so important. Because if you have a team, you can keep the ball rolling with less planning. And that is how I do it. And my plan is a month minimum. The more you add, the better the execution for your charity.
I agree. Nothing is worse than trying to like plan a charity stream when it's next week.
Oh yeah, no.
Like
No.
that puts you in a bind. It puts your
Mhm.
I mean, we've all done it, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And again, like
Yes.
disasters happen and like you
Yeah.
need to be able to respond quickly, but it's better to do those for those one-off times rather than, oh my God, I haven't gotten to this month's charity stream. Gotta plan it now.
Yeah.
100% with the as much time as you can give yourself.
Mhm.
My loose estimates are get a calendar going about a year in advance, just blocking things out realistically. Like if I know that like my busy season with my day job is busy around January, February, maybe not do so much in those months. Um, for one shots, I tend to give myself about 6 weeks, bringing in the GM early in on that process. For campaign length, for things that are around those 4 episodes, I will plan 4 to 5 months ahead because there's a lot more that goes into this. That's when you're trying to get sponsors and reaching out to companies and doing that longer application process. But again, the GM is one of the first things. I'd probably say it's in the top like 4 things that happen first when planning out those longer campaigns or mini campaigns. But yeah, as much time as you can give yourself, because time will make you realize the things that you want to have rather than it being a day or two and scrambling to be like, oh, I want this in the overlay, or I wanted this sponsor, or oh man, I wish I had like done this sooner. Build that sooner for yourself. We are capable sometimes, depending on how chaotic life is. Yeah, just give yourself time. It helps so much in the success and in the polish of your eventual storytelling and end process.
I have a uh loose but real tight general schedule that I try to do because um it's not just fundraising streams anymore over there at Diversity Save. Now we also have our other showcases and our celebrations and all that stuff. So my GM is picked and or at least narrowed down 60 days before, uh 55 days at the latest. Um the casting is done 35 to 30 days before, because that 30 to 35 days is going to be them not only getting to know each other, but we have to schedule the session zero. So giving us as many chances to get that session zero in as possible is really important. Um, have I occasionally had to shorten that because I am also neurodivergent? Yes. Sometimes, but that is a pretty stagnant thing, because then at least on the fundraising side, I don't have fundraising streams more than 2 months at a time. And so that little that that's what I do.
Scott, you're muted.
Scott, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. It seems pretty daunting, the idea of building all these things. So, with all that said, with you set up your cast and you set up your GM, how hard is it for someone to set up technically with a charity organization? And what if a charity organization doesn't have some kind of streamer tools like Tiltify? Like, what do you do in cases like that to make sure that the money goes to the right places and is accounted for properly and all that?
So, if a charity is not set up on Tiltify, but you have your heart set on them becoming set up, you can actually connect them to Tiltify to get them set up for free. You can also check out Twitch's fundraising to see if they're set up there. And then I think Stream Elements also has an integrated fundraising tool. So all is not lost if they're not on Tiltify. But I always caution folks personally to go through a third-party donation processing center, because God forbid you raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you like have it set up to your Ko-Fi, and now you're on the hook not only for the tax burden, but also for getting that donation to the charity, even though a percentage has been taken out because of donation or because of like processing fees. Like,
Oh wow!
there's
Yeah.
just like a whole can of worms that you can open if you set yourself up as the middleman to collect donations. So I always encourage people to go through Tiltify, Twitch, or Stream Elements if they want to do fundraising. Now, that's not to say that there are organizations out there that aren't 501c3 status. There are many out there that are grassroots organizations that are so worthy. And in that sense, I would ask them if they could set up a Ko-Fi or something like that, to where the donations are going straight to them and not going through you and your banking account. I see a lot of head nods, and so
Oh
I'll
yeah.
let y'all
It
take it
sounds
from
so
there.
messy.
Having done the middleman thing once, never again. There are so many options out there to get charities set up. So many already are. So many wonderful causes already have Tiltifies, are connected to the Twitch charity system. If again, like Jess said, if you have one that you have your heart set on, work with them. Don't let that burden be on you. Don't let it be one more
Yeah.
thing to have to worry about at the end of the day. Because it is a lot to deal with, more so than I think people realize. The tax burden, like Jess said, the fees that get taken out in the process, having it go directly to the charity is the better option, hands down. In whatever way you can make that work, there are so many avenues and venues to make that work. Find them and don't just say, "Oh, I'll do it myself." It's not worth it.
Yeah, I had a. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
good, do it.
I had a front row seat via social media, um, and saw, via posts, what happened with one of the people that was going to be a guest, which is Devin Rue. with what they had to go through when they were the middle person for the trans TTRPG charity fundraiser that they did for a nonprofit in Texas, and it was awful. Like, it was all posted publicly, so I don't feel really bad talking about it. But like, I was not involved in organizing charity at the time, but I saw that, I took the note, and I was like, never. I will never, like, yes, there are so many 501c3s. Everything just said 5 stars. If the organization can start their own Ko-Fi or their own fundraising thing, absolutely do that. But I will never be the middleman myself, because it is what is probably simple for a wealthy or upper class charity fundraiser person. Oh, it's fine, I can handle the tax burden. Could be devastating for a working class or even a working poor person who just wants to raise money for a cause that they care about. And it would financially break me, and it could financially break a lot of people in the space. So please believe us when we say find a third party or help the charity facilitate having a third party. Don't put yourself at risk, especially in this economy.
I will absolutely echo and advise, don't be the middleman. It is not that common in the TTRPG space, but in the video game space, there are countless and numerous cases of people being the middleman with the intention of never giving the money to the charities. And it is just a trust factor that you don't want to risk. Entire Fountain, I list a bunch of them, where they did years of charity streaming and never donated a single dollar. So there is hundreds of ways to not be the middleman. Don't be the middleman. I don't know if it was said yet. PayPal for charities. That is also one. In addition to like Tiltify, Tiltify on the back end did change some things. So they do take a little more money out of the nonprofit than they used to. Funds. But if it's a small charity like Diversity Saves, we can set up everything that is needed directly in our website. So like, if you're reaching out to the charity and they're hesitant, Tiltify also won't register a nonprofit with a Gmail address. And so smaller, more grassroots organizations that don't have the money to get a specialized email address cannot sign up for Tiltify. And also they added an extra step. I only know this because Diversity Saves has been fighting Tiltify for a little while. But the organizations that are already on there, Tiltify is a priceless tool. You can do so much through Tiltify that it is hands down worth it once you're registered. But PayPal for charity will link to literally anything. All they have to do is be a 501c3 and you can donate directly to their PayPal. PayPal takes the smallest number of fees when it is directly from PayPal for charities, which I believe Streamlabs is connected to, and that other bot that I'm totally messing up. Maybe it's Nightbot or something.
Nightbot or
Nightbot, yeah.
Nightbot.
Nightbot.
But yeah, if you are there is a difference if you are doing merchandise. Whereas I have done merchandise for charity streams, and then at that point, you just want to be, you're already having to deal with the tax burden because you're doing merchandise. I did buttons for a stream, sold buttons, donated all of the profit. You just have to be transparent. I posted my receipts. I did all of that stuff. But that's also not as common anymore because, I haven't seen merchandise for charity streams in a while.
I mean, we're at the end. I did want to ask, is it hard to connect up the system? Like for somebody just getting started, is it a complicated process or is it a 10-minute kind of thing and you're ready to go?
For which one?
Uh, uh,
Them.
I watched a YouTube video on Jess's YouTube channel. And after watching that, I was ready to go with my Tiltify stream. So
Nice.
Oh,
it's
yeah, on the fundraising side?
yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I don't mean to embarrass you, Jess, but like I was so excited when I saw that you were on this roundtable because I was like almost everything that I've learned about this, I've learned from you.
Thank you.
So yes, Jess has a very clear step-by-step. Scott, whoever's watching, if you're a visual learner, if you're an auditory learner, there are also forums out there. Steve from Pantsless Tables, if you ping them on Blue Sky, you can also ask Steve. Steve is also very well versed in Tiltify. You let them know, oh, I'm a TTRPG person. I want to do charity stuff. He is also an open resource as well. The people are out there. You just have to ask. And that is the answer to that question. So it is easy. You just have
Very
to
easy.
look. It is very easy.
So
You
does
can
anybody
probably
wanna
get it
add
done
to
in an
that?
hour.
I'll add on that I think that people overwhelm themselves when they're first starting out and they don't ask for help. And so they look at Tiltify and you have to register for it. And that's one barrier. But once you register and start poking around, it is incredibly user friendly. So my biggest piece of advice with deciding what platform you're going to use is just start poking around because whether you're doing it on Twitch, whether you're doing it on Streamlabs or Tiltify, they're all made to be user friendly and they all have ways that you can chat with a live person if you're running into some sort of an issue.
Nice.
And even farther back sort of step is if it is just all a little bit overwhelming, joining things like marathons, like Extra Life. Extra Life walks you through they have all of you put in your information, it'll populate a graphic for you. It does a lot of the things, and then that can also be an extra step to help learn how to do this. And it can tend to be a little less overwhelming if it tends to feel like it might be. I've done Extra Life. I really like it.
I love Extra Life, and it's never been easier to set up fundraising streams. Honestly, there's so many more tools out here. There are so many people, again, circling back to our original discussion. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So many people will help if you just ask. So many people will help you get things started or set up or join a team. Like Nekola said, don't be afraid to get involved. That is the easiest way to begin setting things up or getting help with setting things up. There are so many resources. Use them.
That's a perfect way to segue into saying who everybody is and where they can find you, and we'll shut it down for the night. Why don't we start with you, Nekola, and we'll go backwards from where we started.
Okay, I have been Nekola, aka Nekola the Druid, on all the social places. I can be found almost exclusively at Diversity Saves, a 501c3 nonprofit benefiting marginalized communities. It was created by fans and creators in the space to make sure that we could see the stories that resonate with us the most and uplift creators in new ways, including grants. And starting this Saturday, our new community showcase, which will be on our Twitch channel at Diversity Saves. This week, I'm interviewing the Batty Bards podcast, fantastic creators. If you have a project that you want featured, you can go to our website at diversitysaves.org. The application is there, as well as a link to our Discord. Everybody is welcome to join the Discord. We do a lot of sharing information about, networking, but also creator-specific things. A lot of people there answering questions and such like that. And so that's me. I don't remember the order.
We'll go
Rosie.
with Rosie.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rosie, Sweet Rosie Bee, just about everywhere on the internet, including sweetrosiebee.com. I am a TTRPG performer, producer, storyteller, doing amazing and fun work in the charity and fundraising space. It is where my heart lives within TTRPGs. I don't have any upcoming projects at present until June, where we will be raising money for Extra Life. Yeah, that's been me, and this has been so much fun. I think it was Hector next.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Hector Reyes, aka Okami, at Okami all over the internet. You can find me primarily on Bluesky at okami.io, which is also my TTRPG games that I publish. Right now, House of Dreams every Sunday is streaming A Season's Oath, A Wanderhome Journey, a charity TTRPG series benefiting Project Hope. We're raising funds to support the survivors of the LA wildfires. And that is every Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. EST to about 7. Please come out. Please donate if you can and support. And toss it down over to Jes.
That's me. Hi, friends. My name is Jes. You can find me on the internet at Jes the Human. That's Jes with just one S. You can also find me at ChariTTRPGs. That's ChariTTRPGs. I have a Substack that I talk about all of the upcoming tabletop charity initiatives that I have going on. Today's newsletter post was about raising funds for Dot's RPG project through the RPGs for Accessible Gaming charity stream that just wrapped up over the weekend, as well as a TTRPG charity stream earlier in March. You can find me on most of the places, but not Twitter. You can't, I mean, you can, but like not really find me there anymore. But I'm most active on Bluesky, Instagram, and YouTube. Hector was talking a little bit about some of the tutorials that I have. I have one that is a basic how to use Tiltify. I have one that's a how to use Tiltify charity auction house if you want to gather a bunch of like TTRPG related items and do an auction. I even have one about how to host your own itch charity bundle, which sucks. It's not fun doing, but it also raises a lot of money, which is really, really fun and cool. But you've got to have the time and the drive for it. God, you got to have the drive for it. But anyway, I don't know, follow me on the sites and check out whatever good morning I decide to give y'all tomorrow.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you. I'm Scott. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for Story Talk. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we talk about making better, cooler overlays for your TTRPG streams. We'll have PSD files and everything along those lines as part of it. We will see you in a couple weeks. Have a good night, everybody.